destabilizing act that I saw in the past 4 years, maybe in the history of the department, is when Attorney General Garland decided on the basis of dubious facts and untested legal theories to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. And not only that, this is the special part. He decided to do it after the former.
Senator Cruz would be next, but he's not here, so I call on Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, welcome. Congratulations. Can we agree that legitimacy is important to America's criminal justice system?
Yes, Senator.
Can we agree that legitimacy is important to the Department of Justice, which in part administers our criminal justice system?
Yes, Senator.
And if Americans come to believe that our criminal justice system or our Department of Justice is acting illegitimately, that makes Americans less likely to accept the results of that system, does it not?
Yes, Senator.
And that makes Americans less likely to follow the substantive laws that we pass that are administered by the Department of Justice. Isn't that true?
Yes, Senator.
And if that happens, we have chaos, don't we?
Chaos.
And the social contract is breached, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you remember a person by the name of Michael Avenatti?
Yes.
Several years ago, he was a media star here in Washington.
An attorney, correct?
Yes. He was a media star. And many members of our media loved him because he persistently bashed Donald Trump. And he was on TV every day. He was on CNN more than Wolf Blitzer. Do you know where Mr. Avenatti is today?
I believe he's sitting in prison, Senator.
He's in jail because he was a crook. And the Department of Justice helped put him there, didn't it?
Yes, Senator.
Do you remember a gentleman by the name of Sam Bankman-Fried?
Yes, Senator.
Boy genius. So smart and so powerful that he thought he could command the tides. So smart and so powerful and so rich that he would go to meetings with serious people like Bill Clinton, like Tony Blair, looking like a slob, looking like a fourth runner-up to a John Belushi lookalike contest. And he thought it was cute. Where's Mr. Bankman-Fried today?
I believe he is in prison, and I believe that's from the Netflix series I saw as well.
Mm-hmm. Because he's a crook. And who helped put him there?
The Department of Justice, Senator.
Can we agree that there's some really, really good men and women at the Department of Justice?
Many, many great men and women in the Justice Department, as well, Senator, as all the law enforcement agencies that fall within the Department of Justice. They're out there risking their lives, especially the law enforcement officers, every single day.
Can we agree, though, that there have been and may be today some bad people at the Department of Justice?
Yes, Senator.
We don't know for sure because for the last 4 years, the curtains there have been tightly drawn. But I think a minority of people there, have delegitimized America's criminal justice system. The most destabilizing act that I saw in the past 4 years, maybe in the history of the department, is when Attorney General Garland decided on the basis of dubious facts and untested legal theories to criminally prosecute a former president of the United States. And not only that, this is the special part. He decided to do it after the former president of the United States had announced that he was going to run against Attorney General Garland's boss, didn't he?
Senator, are you referring to going after a political opponent?
I think so. Now, this is one person's opinion. That kind of stupid takes a plan. And I say that because, number one, this is America. That had never happened before in America. That's the sort of thing that happens in a country whose Powerball jackpot is 287 chickens and a goat. It doesn't happen here. And I call it stupid because it broke the seal. It broke the seal. It normalized it. There are a lot of ambitious prosecutors in America, Democrat and Republican. And I'll bet you right now there's some prosecutor in a particular state thinking about, well, maybe I ought to file criminal charges against President Biden's inner circle for conspiring to conceal his mental decline. And that's the road we're headed down. And you've got to fix it, Counselor. You've got to fix it. And here's, in my judgment, what I would ask you to do. Find out who the bad guys are and the bad women and get rid of them. Find out who the good people are and lift them up. But do it on the basis of facts and evidence and fairness. Because the temptation of some people is going to be, they're going to tell you, look, two wrongs don't make a right, but they do make it even. Don't resist that temptation. Help us restore legitimacy to the Department of Justice.
Thank you, Senator.
What just unfolded in that chamber was not a shouting match, not a partisan soundbite, but something far more unsettling. It was a slow, methodical dismantling of an idea most Americans take for granted. Senator John Kennedy did not raise his voice. He did not rush. Instead, he asked a series of simple questions about legitimacy, trust, and consequence, and forced the room to confront an uncomfortable truth. When the public stops believing that justice is fair, the system does not merely weaken, it fractures. Kennedy's line of questioning centered on a foundational concept, legitimacy, not popularity, not approval ratings, legitimacy. The quiet agreement that the rules apply evenly, that outcomes, even painful ones, are accepted because the process itself is trusted. He pressed the point carefully, drawing agreement step by step. If Americans believe the Department of Justice is acting illegitimately, they are less likely to accept its decisions, less likely to follow the laws it enforces, and when that happens, order gives way to chaos. The social contract, the invisible agreement holding a nation together, begins to tear. This was not abstract theory. Kennedy grounded his argument in history, recent, vivid history. He reminded the room of figures once celebrated by media, praised by political allies, elevated as symbols of moral authority. Michael Avenatti, Sam Bankman-Fried. Both were once untouchable in the public imagination. Both were later exposed, prosecuted, and imprisoned. And in those cases, the Department of Justice acted decisively, correctly, and with public support. No one questioned the legitimacy of those outcomes because the evidence was clear and the process appeared fair. That contrast was deliberate. Kennedy was not attacking the idea of accountability. He was defending it. He openly acknowledged what many inside Washington quietly agree on, that the vast majority of people working inside the Department of Justice are honorable professionals. Men and women who risk their safety, their reputations, and their careers to uphold the law. But he also warned that it takes only a small number of bad actors, operating behind closed curtains, to undermine the credibility of the entire institution. Then came the moment that shifted the tone from concern to alarm. Kennedy described what he called the most destabilizing act in the modern history of the Department of Justice: the criminal prosecution of a former president of the United States, initiated after that former president announced he was running again for office, not decades later, not after retirement, but in the middle of an active political contest. In his words, based on dubious facts and untested legal theories. This was not framed as a defense of any one individual. It was framed as a warning about precedent. Once the seal is broken, Kennedy argued, it cannot be resealed. What was once unthinkable becomes normalized. If prosecutors believe it is acceptable to pursue criminal charges against political opponents during active campaigns, the incentive structure of the entire system changes. Ambition replaces restraint. Politics bleeds into prosecution. And the door opens to a cycle of retaliation that no institution can survive intact. He painted a future that felt uncomfortably plausible, a future where prosecutors across the country from either party begin searching for legal theories to target those in power. Not because justice demands it, but because precedent allows it. In that world, accountability is no longer about facts and evidence. It becomes about timing, advantage, and control. And the public, watching from the outside, loses faith not just in outcomes, but in the system itself. Yet this was not a speech about despair. It was a challenge. Kennedy turned directly to Pam Bondi and issued a clear directive: find the bad actors and remove them. Elevate the good ones. Restore faith through transparency, fairness, and evidence. Resist the temptation to justify excess by pointing to past excess. Two wrongs do not create justice. They only create balance in injustice. What makes this moment resonate is not ideology. It is the recognition that institutions do not survive on power alone. They survive on trust. Courts, prosecutors, and agencies wield authority only as long as the public believes that authority is exercised with restraint and integrity. Once that belief collapses, no statute, no ruling, no enforcement action can restore it overnight. This hearing was not about one case. It was about the future of American governance, about whether justice remains blind, or whether it becomes another arena for political warfare, about whether the Department of Justice is remembered as a stabilizing force in a divided nation, or as the spark that accelerated division beyond repair. Moments like this rarely feel dramatic in real time. There were no raised voices, no gavels slammed in anger. But history often turns not on spectacle, but on quiet warnings delivered too late or ignored too long. What Senator Kennedy articulated was a line in the sand, a reminder that legitimacy, once lost, is almost impossible to reclaim. The question now is not whether the warning was heard. It is whether it will be acted upon. Because a nation cannot function when its people no longer believe in the fairness of its justice system, and a democracy cannot endure when power is trusted more than principle. If you believe these moments matter, if you believe transparency, accountability, and truth deserve a platform, support our work to expose the truth. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.